Hey and welcome to my channel. The other day I was thinking a little bit in what way has my life changed since I moved to Sweden, and also a little bit compared to other countries where I lived, like Germany, where I'm originally from, the UK and Singapore. What has really changed for me? What is different here in Sweden compared to those other countries I lived in? Let's get started. So one thing I feel like is quite particular for Sweden, and I haven't really experienced this in any of the other countries, is the light and darkness. So we have summer right now. That means that actually the days are very long. We had, I think it was end of June, kind of the longest summer day, and the sun barely went down. And I'm also talking just around the Stockholm area where I live. So obviously up in the north is more different. I think the sun really doesn't go down at all. But yeah, it is very weird that there is little darkness during the summer and the days are very light. It sometimes messes up a little bit my rhythm, like I get tired a little bit later. Sometimes I look on my watch and it is nearly 11 p.m. in the evening and it's still light out there and I'm like, oh my god, I need to go to bed. So that's very different. Obviously it's the summer and it's light. The opposite is the case when it is winter, where I think it gets dark around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which is absolutely crazy. That is something so specific for Sweden. I mentioned in a few videos I've spent 2 winters now in Sweden. So far I haven't really minded the darkness. I know a lot of people are bothered by, you know, the kind of constant darkness during the winter, but I have to say I always try to make the best, and you know, I love these lights out there, and you know, around the Christmas season I feel it's also not that bad. But again, I only spent here 2 winters, so we will see what it is like in winter number 3 this year. Yeah, it is quite a change since I moved here. Very long light days in the summer and quite long dark days in the winter. Another thing which has changed, and it might be a mix of like me living here in Sweden now and maybe also my age. I don't drink as much alcohol anymore, and why I say this is quite particular for Sweden, or maybe Sweden is the reason why I changed my alcohol consumption, is it's quite restricted here. There's only one place where you can buy alcohol, or at least, you know, the higher percentage alcohol at Suburb, which I mentioned in a few videos. The opening times are quite restricted. It's not open on Sunday. And before that, you know, I lived in the UK, for example, you could literally go anywhere and buy alcohol in a corner shop at any time of the day, at least in London. But also I would say alcohol is quite expensive here when you go to restaurants. So whilst I love a glass of wine here and there, I don't do it that much just because I don't want to spend so much money on alcohol. But yeah, why I mentioned my age as well, I'm a mom of 2, you know, I'm having very busy days, and I know also when I drink even like sometimes 2 glasses of wine, I really struggle the next day and I kind of have to be fit and, you know, start the day right again. So that's why I also mentioned my age. I'm sure I don't drink as much as in my 20s, but it definitely helps that Sweden here has these restrictions. I think they're working with me as well. Oh, and another thing I think Sweden contributes to, you know, drinking less alcohol is that they have so much variety of non-alcoholic beverages, and I'm talking about like the alcoholic versions turned into non-alcoholic versions. And to be honest, I really love that. For example, I'm a big fan of gin and tonic, and recently I discovered like some really nice alcohol-free gin and tonic, and I drink that every now and then because I love the taste, and you know, I don't have to suffer from the consequences of the alcohol. Like, even in the UK, such a big country, and like London specifically, such a big city, I feel the variety of non-alcoholic beverages here in Sweden is so much more than in the UK. You can literally buy anything alcohol-free and you have a lot of varieties, like different beers, different wines, different beverages like gin and tonic. All of these you can really get alcohol-free, and I think that's really good, and it, you know, it works. Like, I'm so happy to drink that. instead of like the original with lots of alcohol. What else has changed since I moved here? So I have experienced parental leave in the UK and I have experienced parental leave in Sweden, and it is a massive change. It is such a difference that I want to mention it, although I mentioned parental leave in a lot of videos of mine. But if you want to get to know Sweden and you do want to have kids or have kids, this is just one significant point I have to mention every now and then. I feel like I really could enjoy the time on parental leave with my kids, or you know, particularly the one kid I was looking after. And in the UK it was quite, I wouldn't say stressful because we had the cushions built up, but if we didn't have that, you know, it would have been much harder. You definitely get much less money in the UK. It's a shorter period of time, and then also, well, which is not part of parental leave, but you know, part of like the educational system maybe of children. We paid a lot of money for the kindergarten in the UK and pay like now what we used to pay in the day in the UK for a month. So that has changed a lot. And okay, I'm comparing it with the UK in particularly, and it might be actually also the same with countries like the US and Canada. Of course, Germany is quite similar to Sweden in terms of the money or parental leave. But then what I also found here, and that's again quite a specific thing for Sweden or the Nordics in general, is that your partner can go on parental leave. And yes, you have that in Germany as well, but I feel like here it's just so common, so common. It would be so weird if the dad doesn't do some part of parental leave. It would be literally the strangest thing ever. And in other countries it's just more like, yeah, you can. It is maybe an opportunity or not even an opportunity, but here it's like a must, like an unwritten rule basically. Well, to be fair, there is a bit of a rule where each parent has 90 days and they have to take that. They can't give it to the other parent. So I guess there is a bit of a rule that you kind of have to use it, otherwise you waste money and, you know, time, because it's the time you can spend with your child or children. So yeah, that is a massive change. That's why I have to mention here, parental leave is just very different to other countries here in Sweden, and it's a good thing. Another thing which has changed is a bit the quietness and the calmness compared to other cities and compared to other countries, and especially in summer. I mentioned it a few times. Swedes are very big on holidays, you know, they leave the cities, go to their holiday house or anywhere else in the country or outside the country to go on holidays, and that for a long period of time, weeks, you know. And it is so quiet. The other day I went to a co-working space. It was 9 a.m. in the morning and the city of Stockholm was empty. You know, the streets were just a few people here and there, a bit of constructions here and there, but it was so quiet, it was unreal. And to be honest, I really enjoy that. I really like it. I don't like the hectic, you know, and you think like when you live in a city, there's always so much buzz and like hectic and chaos, but not so in Stockholm. And I'm sure like in other Swedish cities it's similar, because Stockholm is the biggest city here in Sweden. So I really enjoy that, and it's definitely such a difference that you have this quietness and calmness here during the summer weeks. But also in general, I know that obviously Stockholm is so much smaller than London, but I feel even in parts of London which are not in the city center, there is so much buzz and so much going on all the time. It's such a relief that it's different here, and I really enjoy it, and it has really changed, and I'm embracing more quietness, more calmness. I even live further out in the suburbs, so my quietness and calmness is actually even bigger than living in the city. But then again, the city life here during summer is pretty quiet as well. Yes, some people would maybe say, oh, it's quite boring here in Sweden or in the city Stockholm. But then I think like, of course it depends on what you want, but who needs entertainment and buzz 24/7? I know, like, you know, cities like New York never sleep and that kind of stuff. If you're that kind of person, then I would agree with you that maybe Sweden or the cities here in Sweden are not for you if you're always looking for something to entertain you. But if not, if you like the quietness or like a little bit of calmness, slowing down a little bit, then I think it's really nice here, and it's a change in my life since I moved to Sweden for sure. Okay, and the last thing I want to mention is the malls in the suburb areas. There are so many malls, it's unreal, and I really was recently quite conscious about it. I mean, it was always there, I kind of always knew it, but that's a big change for me when I look back at, you know, where I lived before. And I don't know, it seems like these malls are there for convenience, you know, you really have a place where everything is there. There's the supermarkets, the shops you need, the restaurants. There are some malls in the city, but you know, the city also has different shops and restaurants and cafes, and it's quite diverse and everything. But in the suburbs, the malls are just dominating. And I'm talking about the suburbs of Stockholm. I have lived in like 2 areas and, you know, visited quite a few areas, and there's a lot of malls. I think around here where I live, there's like 2-3 malls just like 5 minutes by car away. And that's kind of strange, and it has definitely changed, and I'm obviously embracing the convenience as well, but at the same time I'm thinking like there's nothing else around here, like not really nice suburban restaurants where you can go to, or shops, that kind of stuff. Like I feel the suburbs are really made for residential areas, and then you have the malls basically. That is definitely a change. Like where I grew up in the countryside, for like an hour from the next city or bigger city, to be honest. I'm talking about Munich, which is comparable maybe size-wise with Stockholm, maybe a bit smaller than Stockholm. I had to drive like an hour to get to the next mall, and that was one mall. And obviously then there's the city where you have other amenities and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely a Swedish thing, and I can only imagine that is a little bit adapted from the US. With their malls, they kind of, yeah, have this convenience, and I don't know, it's not bad or good in my opinion. Again, it's very convenient. I'm kind of glad they are there, but at the same time it takes away quite a lot of the charm. Everything looks the same, and every mall literally has the same shops. Like wherever you go, there's pretty much the same shops. Maybe sometimes the restaurants vary a little bit, but it's very monotone, like the same. And I don't know if I like that. It really takes away a little bit of the charm. Like you could put a person just randomly in the mall, and then they could, you know, guess in which country they are. I don't know if they would guess it's Sweden. So yeah, but that is definitely a change, that I'm surrounded by these malls, and when we go anywhere, if it's not the city, it will be a mall where we can get everything, even going to a restaurant every now and then. So yeah, let me know what you thought about the changes in my life since I moved here to Sweden. Is there anything which changed for you? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Have a great day and stay safe. Hej då!